You thought you'd get away with it, but I know the truth.
The call came while I had my hands buried in the guts of Dad's 1967 Mustang, grease under my nails and that familiar smell of old oil and rust filling my lungs. If only wrenches could fix marriages, I'd be set. Hell, if only wrenches could fix everything that was about to come crashing down on my head like a ton of bricks. Mr. Dalton? The voice on the phone was professional, detached. This is Officer Ramirez with the State Police. I'm calling about your parents, Robert and Helen Dalton. I wiped my hands on a rag, leaving black smears across the red fabric. Yeah, what about them? They get another speeding ticket? I tried to keep it light, but something in the officer's tone made my stomach clench. Sir, I'm sorry to inform you that your parents were involved in a single-vehicle accident last night on Route 22. They didn't survive. I'm very sorry for your loss. The wrench slipped from my other hand and clattered against the concrete floor of the garage. The sound echoed in the sudden silence that filled my head. What? No, They were just at the house yesterday. Miranda threw them an anniversary party. 42 years. They were fine. I understand this is difficult, Mr. Dalton. We'll need you to come down to the station when you're ready. There are some questions about the accident that we need to discuss with the family. Questions. That word stuck in my brain like a splinter. What kind of questions? I don't remember hanging up. I don't remember walking from the garage into the house. I just remember standing in the kitchen staring at Miranda as she sat at the table with her laptop, her reading glasses perched on her nose, looking every bit the successful attorney she'd worked so hard to become. They're dead, I said. She looked up, and for just a fraction of a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Not shock, not grief. Something else. Something that made my skin crawl. But then it was gone, replaced by a perfectly crafted expression of concern. What? Jack, what are you talking about? Mom and Dad. Car accident. They're dead, Miranda. She stood up, came around the table, put her hand on my arm. Her touch felt cold even through my shirt. Oh my God, Jack, I'm so sorry. What happened? I don't know. The cop said there were questions about the accident. Questions? Her voice was sharp, controlled, always controlled. What kind of questions? I pulled away from her touch. I don't know, Miranda. I just found out my parents are dead. I haven't exactly processed the details yet. She nodded, stepping back, and I saw her fingers twitch toward her phone. Of course. I'm sorry. Do you want me to call Lila? She's at Ashley's house. Yeah, and we need to tell your parents too. They were close with mine. I'll handle it, she said, already picking up her phone. You should sit down. You're in shock. Maybe I was. The world felt tilted, wrong. My parents had been the constants in my life. Dad taught me everything about cars, about being a man who kept his word and worked with his hands. Mom had been the glue that held our family together, the one who smoothed over arguments and baked cookies for every holiday. And now they were just gone. The funeral was 3 days later. The whole town showed up, or at least it felt that way. My parents had lived in Millbrook their entire lives, knew everyone, helped everyone. The funeral home was packed with people offering condolences, sharing stories, crying genuine tears. Miranda played her part perfectly, the grieving daughter-in-law, supporting her devastated husband, comforting their daughter. She wore a black dress that was appropriately somber but still managed to highlight her figure. Her makeup was flawless, with just a hint of redness around her eyes that could have been tears or could have been carefully applied eyeshadow. I couldn't tell anymore. Lila stood beside her mother, 17, and already looking so much like Miranda, it hurt. She'd barely spoken to me since the accident, and when she did, her voice was cold, distant, like I was a stranger instead of her father. Dad, she said as we stood by the caskets, Mom says we need to talk about the will, about what happens next. The will? I stared at her. Lila, we just buried your grandparents. Can we maybe wait a day before we start dividing up their stuff? She flinched, and I saw Miranda's hand tighten on her shoulder. Your father's upset, Miranda said smoothly. We'll discuss it later. Why don't you go find Ashley? After Lila walked away, Miranda leaned close. We do need to talk, Jack. Your parents' lawyer gave me an envelope. There's one for you too, and apparently one for Lila. Fine, later. Tonight, this is important. I wanted to argue, but I was too tired, too numb. I just nodded and turned back to shake another hand, accept another hug, listen to another story about how wonderful my parents had been. That night, after everyone had left and the house was quiet, Miranda sat me down at the kitchen table. She had 3 envelopes in front of her, each one sealed with the law firm's logo stamped in gold. "Open yours," she said, sliding one across to me. Inside was a copy of my parents' will. Standard stuff, mostly. The house would go to me. Their savings would be split between me and Lila. Some personal items were designated for specific people. Nothing surprising. "Okay," I said, setting it down. "This all seems straightforward." "It is," Miranda agreed. She opened her envelope, scanned it quickly. "They left me Mom's jewelry collection. That's sweet. She always said you had good taste." Miranda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "And Lila gets the college fund they set up, plus some bonds. That'll help with tuition." It all seemed normal. Sad, but normal. Parents die. They leave their stuff to their kids and grandkids. Circle of life and all that depressing crap. But the next morning, everything went to hell. I woke up to find Miranda already dressed in one of her power suits, the kind she wore when she was going to court to destroy someone's life. She was standing by the bed, holding papers. "We need to talk," she said. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. "What time is it?" 7. "I'm filing for divorce, Jack." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce. I'm also filing for full custody of Lila. You'll get supervised visitation." I threw off the covers, stood up. "Miranda, what the hell are you talking about? My parents just died. What is this?" "This is me, protecting our daughter from your drinking problem." "My what?" "I don't have a drinking problem." She held up her phone, showed me a photo. It was me, in the garage, holding a beer. "You drink every day, Jack. You come home smelling like booze. You've been getting worse for months." "That's one beer after work." "Miranda, I run an auto shop. I'm not getting drunk. I have a beer or two to unwind. That's not alcoholism." "The court will decide that. I've already documented everything. The late nights, the smell of booze, your mood swings. I have witnesses who will testify to your erratic behavior." "Witnesses? Who? What the hell is happening right now?" She set the papers on the bed. "You'll be served officially later today. I've already moved my things to a hotel. Lila is coming with me. You're not to contact her directly. All communication goes through me or my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" "Miranda, you are a lawyer, which is why I've retained Brent Halloran to represent me. He's the best family law attorney in the state." Brent Halloran, her boss, the senior partner at her firm. I'd met him exactly twice, both times at office parties. He was one of those guys who wore suits that cost more than my truck, who had perfect teeth and perfect hair and a handshake that felt like he was measuring your worth as a human being. "You're using your boss to divorce me. I'm using the best lawyer available to protect my daughter. Our daughter, Miranda, she's our daughter. Not anymore. Not after the court hears about your problems." She walked out, just like that. Walked out of our bedroom, out of our house, out of our marriage. I heard her heels clicking down the stairs, heard the front door open and close, heard her car start and drive away. I stood there in my boxers and t-shirt, staring at the divorce papers, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My parents were dead. My wife was leaving me. My daughter was being taken away. And apparently I was a heavy drinker, which was news to me. The doorbell rang an hour later. I'd managed to get dressed by then, though I couldn't remember doing it. I opened the door to find Detective Sheila Price standing on my porch, her badge clipped to her belt, her expression grim. "Mr. Dalton, I'm Detective Price. I need to ask you some questions about your parents' accident." "Okay," I said, stepping back to let her in. "What do you need to know?" She sat down in the living room, pulled out a notebook. "When was the last time you saw your parents alive?" "At the anniversary party. My wife threw it for them. Here, actually. They left around 9. "And how did they seem? Upset? Angry? Distressed?" "No, they seemed fine. Happy. It was their anniversary. Why are you asking me this?" Detective Price looked at me with eyes that had seen too much and believed too little. "Because your parents' car didn't just crash, Mr. Dalton. The brake lines were cut. Someone homicided them." The word homicided hung in the air like smoke, choking me. I sat down hard on the couch, my legs suddenly unable to hold my weight. "That's not possible," I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew how stupid they sounded. Of course it was possible. Anything was possible. My wife had just accused me of being a drunk and taken my daughter. Why couldn't someone have homicided my parents? "I'm afraid it is possible, Mr. Dalton, and it's what happened." Detective Price leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. "The brake lines were severed with a sharp tool. Clean cuts, deliberate. Your parents' car went off the road at the first sharp turn after they left your house. They didn't have a chance to stop. Jesus Christ. I put my head in my hands. Who would do that? Why? That's what I'm trying to find out. Your parents had no enemies that we've been able to identify, no financial troubles, no recent arguments or disputes, which brings me to the uncomfortable question. Who benefits from their passing? I looked up at her. You think I did this? You think I eliminated my own parents? I'm not accusing you of anything, Mr. Dalton. I'm asking questions. It's my job. I loved my parents. They were good people, the best people I knew. I believe you, but I still need to know who inherits their estate. Me, mostly. The house, their savings. Some stuff goes to my daughter. My wife got my mom's jewelry. Your wife. Detective Price made a note. That would be Miranda Dalton, attorney at Halloran, Price and Associates. Yeah, wait, Price, are you related to... No relation. Different family entirely. Small world, though. She flipped a page in her notebook. When did you last service your parents' vehicle? About a month ago. Oil change, tire rotation, brake check. Everything was fine. And the car was kept where? In their garage. They never left it unlocked. Who else had access to that garage? I thought about it. Me, my wife, my daughter, technically, though she can't drive yet. My dad's brother, Uncle Pete, but he lives in Florida. That's pretty much it. Did your parents have any recent visitors? Anyone who might have had access to their garage? Detective, they just had an anniversary party with 30 people here. Any of them could have gone to the house afterward, but I can't imagine why anyone would want to hurt them. She stood up, handed me a business card. If you think of anything, call me, day or night. And Mr. Dalton, be careful. If someone eliminated your parents, they might not be done. After she left, I sat in the empty house and tried to process everything. My parents were homicided. Someone had deliberately cut their brake lines, sent them to their ends, and now Detective Price was asking questions that made me sound like a suspect. I needed to think. I needed to get out of the house. I grabbed my keys and drove to the one place I'd always felt safe, my parents' house. It was strange, walking through the door knowing they'd never walk through it again. The house still smelled like my mom's lavender potpourri. Dad's reading glasses were still on the side table next to his chair. Everything was frozen in time, waiting for people who would never come home. I went to the garage. Dad's Mustang was still there, the one I'd been working on when I got the call. I ran my hand over the hood, remembering all the hours we'd spent together in this garage, him teaching me about engines and carburetors, and the satisfaction of fixing something with your own hands. That's when I saw it. Dad's old red toolbox, the one he'd had since before I was born. It was sitting on the workbench, slightly open. Dad never left it open. He was meticulous about his tools, always putting everything back in its place. I opened it fully and found an envelope taped to the inside of the lid. My name was written on it in Dad's handwriting. My hands shook as I pulled it free and opened it. Inside was a letter and a folded document. Jack, if you're reading this, something has happened to your mother and me. I hope I'm being paranoid. I hope I'm wrong. But I've learned in my 70 years that it's better to be prepared than sorry. I need you to know the truth about Miranda. I'm sorry, son. I know you love her, but she's not who you think she is. 3 months ago, your mother and I discovered that Miranda is having an affair with her boss, Brent Halloran. We saw them together at a restaurant in Pittsburgh where they thought no one would recognize them. They were intimate, very intimate. We confronted Miranda about it. She denied it at first, but when we showed her the photos we'd taken, she changed tactics. She threatened us. She said if we told you, she would destroy us. She knew things about our finances, about some investments your mother and I made that weren't entirely legal. Nothing major, just some tax issues from years ago. But Miranda said she could make it look much worse. She said she could have us audited, investigated, maybe even charged. We didn't know what to do. We didn't want to lose you or Lila. We didn't want to go to prison, so we kept quiet. But I couldn't live with myself, knowing what she was doing to you. I had our will updated without telling Miranda. The new version leaves everything to you alone. No split with Lila, no jewelry for Miranda. Everything goes to you. I'm sorry to burden you with this, but I needed to protect what we've built. I needed to make sure she doesn't profit from betraying you. The new will is enclosed. It's been properly filed with our attorney, Leonard Marsh. He's the only one who knows about it. Not the firm where Miranda works. I didn't trust them. There's more. I've been documenting Miranda's activities. Times, dates, places where she's met with Halloran. Bank statements showing unexplained deposits into an account in her name only. I've put all of it in a folder labeled Miranda Truth in the filing cabinet in my office. Top drawer, back left corner. I love you, son. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was a coward. But I won't let her win. If something happens to us, you'll know where to look. Dad. I read the letter 3 times, each time feeling like someone was tightening a vice around my chest. My father had known. He'd known Miranda was cheating, known she was threatening them, known she was dangerous, and now he was dead. I unfolded the second document. It was a will, dated 2 months ago, signed and notarized. Everything Dad had written was true. The entire estate, the house, the savings, the investments, everything, was left solely to me. There was a small trust for Lila's education, but nothing for Miranda. Not even the jewelry. I went to Dad's office, found the filing cabinet, pulled open the top drawer. The folder was exactly where he'd said it would be. Inside were dozens of documents. Photos of Miranda and Brent Halloran at restaurants, hotels, walking hand in hand through parks. Bank statements showing deposits of $5,000 every month into an account I'd never heard of. Printed emails between Miranda and someone named Dana Feld discussing the plan and keeping the old folks quiet. Dana Feld, Miranda's best friend from law school, also a lawyer at the same firm. I took photos of everything with my phone, then put the folder back exactly as I'd found it. My mind was racing. Miranda hadn't just been cheating on me. She'd been planning something. Something that involved my parents. Something that had gotten them eliminated. The affair made sense now. The sudden divorce filing made sense. She was trying to get ahead of this. She was trying to paint me as an unstable drunk before I could expose her. And she was using Brent Halloran, her lover, as her attorney. The same Brent Halloran who probably knew exactly what she'd done. I drove back to my house, though it didn't feel like my house anymore, and went straight to my office. I locked the door and spread out all the photos on my desk. I needed to organize this. I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. The emails were the most damning. Miranda and Dana discussing my parents. They're becoming a problem. We need to handle this before they talk to Jack. What do you suggest? I'm working on it. Trust me. We can't risk this falling apart now. We're too close. I said I'm handling it. Just keep Brent happy and focused on the end game. The end game? What the hell was the end game? I kept digging through the documents and found a partnership agreement, dated 6 months ago, between Miranda Dalton, Brent Halloran, and Dana Feld. They were planning to break off from the main firm and start their own practice. But they needed capital, significant capital. My parents' estate was worth almost $2 million. The house alone was worth $400,000. The rest was in investments and savings that Dad had carefully built over 40 years of working as an engineer. If Miranda was still married to me when my parents died, and if the old will was in effect, she'd get a significant portion of that money through me, community property. Even if we divorced, she'd be entitled to half of whatever I inherited during our marriage. But if I was declared an unfit parent, and heavy drinker, someone who couldn't be trusted, she'd get custody of Lila. She'd get the house in the divorce. She'd get her half of my inheritance, and she'd have the capital she needed for her new firm. My parents had been obstacles. They'd known about the affair. They'd threatened to tell me. So Miranda had eliminated them, and now she was eliminating me. I heard the front door open, footsteps in the hallway. My office door handle rattled. Jack, open the door. Miranda's voice, cold, commanding. Go away, Miranda. I have papers for you to sign. The divorce settlement. If you sign now, this can be easy. I'm not signing anything. Jack, don't be difficult. You're going to lose. You know that, right? I'm a better lawyer than anyone you can afford. I have documentation of your drinking. I have witnesses. The court will side with me. I opened the door. She was standing there in her suit, looking perfect and cold and completely foreign to me. This woman I'd been married to for 18 years. This woman I'd loved. This woman who'd homicided my parents. I know about Brent, I said. She didn't even flinch. I don't know what you're talking about. I know about the affair. I know about the partnership. I know about Dana. I know everything, Miranda. Now she reacted. Just a tiny tightening around her eyes. You're delusional. This is exactly the kind of paranoid behavior I've been documenting. My father left me a letter. He knew. He and Mom both knew. That's why you eliminated them, isn't it? Because they were going to tell me. You're insane. But her voice wavered, just for a second. I'm leaving. I'm taking Lila somewhere safe, away from you and your conspiracy theories. You cut their brake lines. You homicided them for money. Prove it." She smiled then, a terrible smile that showed all her teeth. "Oh wait, you can't, because I didn't do anything wrong. Your parents died in an accident, a tragic accident, and you're having a breakdown. That's what everyone will say. That's what the court will hear." She turned and walked away. I heard the front door slam. I heard her car start and drive off. She was right about one thing. I couldn't prove it. Not yet. The evidence I had showed motive showed she had reason to want my parents dead, but it didn't prove she'd actually done it. And without proof, I was just a grieving son making wild accusations against his soon-to-be ex-wife. But I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to let her get away with homiciding my parents and destroying my life. I picked up my phone and called the one person I knew I could trust. "Benny's bar," answered a gruff voice. "Benny, it's Jack. I need help." "Jack, buddy, I heard about your folks. I'm real sorry." "Thanks. Listen, I need to meet with you. Tonight, and I need you to keep it quiet." "Sounds serious." "It is. It's about Miranda." There was a pause. "Say no more. Come by after closing. Midnight, back door." "Thanks, Benny." "That's what friends are for, brother." Benny Cross had been my best friend since high school. We'd played football together, gotten drunk together, gotten into trouble together. After graduation, I'd gone to community college for business and automotive technology. Benny had become a cop. He'd been a good cop, too. Honest, dedicated, the kind of guy who actually cared about protecting people. But 12 years in, he'd seen too much corruption. Too many bad cops getting away with bad things. He'd tried to blow the whistle on a lieutenant who was taking bribes from pill dealers. Instead of the lieutenant getting fired, Benny had been forced out. Not a team player, they'd said. Causing problems. So Benny had taken his pension and bought a bar on the rough side of town. The kind of place where ex-cops and mechanics and construction workers came to drink cheap beer and complain about their lives. The kind of place where people minded their own business and kept their mouths shut about what they saw and heard. It was also the kind of place where a guy could get information if he knew who to ask. I showed up at midnight exactly, parked in the alley behind the bar, and knocked on the back door. Benny opened it immediately, his bulk filling the doorway. He'd put on weight since his cop days, but he was still solid, still someone you didn't want to mess with. "Get in here," he said, pulling me inside and locking the door behind us. The bar was empty except for one old guy passed out in a corner booth. Benny led me to his office in the back, a cramped room with a desk covered in receipts and a wall full of photos from his cop days. "Talk to me," he said, settling into his chair. "What's going on?" I told him everything, the affair, the homicide, the divorce, the setup. I showed him the photos from my dad's folder. I showed him the emails between Miranda and Dana. I showed him the partnership agreement. Benny listened without interrupting, his face getting harder with each detail. When I finished, he sat back and let out a long breath. "Jack, this is heavy. This is really heavy." "I know." "You take this to the cops?" "Detective Price is already investigating the homicide. But I don't have proof Miranda did it, just motive. Motive's a start, but you're right, it's not enough." He rubbed his face. "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I still know people. Cops, PIs, people who owe me favors. We're gonna dig into Miranda, Brent, and Dana. We're gonna find out everything about them. Bank records, phone records, security footage from that night. Everything." "How?" Benny grinned. "You let me worry about that. You just focus on not doing anything stupid. Don't confront her again. Don't threaten her. Don't give her any ammunition to use against you in court." "It might be too late for that. I already told her I knew about the affair." "Damn it, Jack." Benny shook his head. "Okay, well, what's done is done. From now on, you play it cool. You play the grieving husband who's confused about the divorce. You don't mention the affair. You don't mention the homicide. You just act like a guy who's trying to hold his life together. That shouldn't be hard. That's pretty much what I am." "Good. Meanwhile, I'll start making calls. I'll see what I can find out about Brent Halloran. Guy like that, successful lawyer, he's got skeletons. Everyone does. We just got to find his... What about Miranda? Her too. But we got to be careful. She's smart and she's a lawyer. She'll know how to cover her tracks. We need to be smarter." I left Benny's bar feeling slightly better. At least I wasn't alone anymore. At least I had someone on my side. But when I got home, I found Lila waiting on the front porch. My daughter, my little girl who wasn't so little anymore. She was sitting on the steps, her arms wrapped around her knees, her face streaked with tears. "Lila?" I got out of the truck and walked toward her. What are you doing here? I thought you were staying with your mom. I was, but I needed to talk to you. She looked up at me, and I saw so much pain in her eyes. Dad, is it true? What Mom said about you? What did she say? That you have a drinking problem, that you're not safe to be around. I sat down next to her on the steps. Lila, I have a beer or two after work sometimes. That's it. I'm not a drunk. Your mom is lying to you. Why would she lie? Because she's trying to take you away from me. Because she wants to control everything. That doesn't make sense. Mom loves me. She wouldn't lie about something like this. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to show her the photos, the emails, the evidence of what her mother really was, but I couldn't do that to her. She was 17. She shouldn't have to know that her mother was a butcher. Lila, I need you to trust me. I know things are confusing right now. I know your grandparents just died, and your mom and I are getting divorced. But I need you to believe me when I tell you that I love you and I would never do anything to hurt you. Then why is Mom so scared of you? She's not scared of me. She's scared I'll find out the truth about her. What truth? I hesitated. I can't tell you yet, but I will. Soon. I promise. She stood up, wiping her eyes. I have to go. Mom's waiting in the car. She said I could have 5 minutes to talk to you. I looked past her and saw Miranda's car parked across the street, engine running. She was watching us through the windshield, her face expressionless. Lila, wait. I stood up too. Do you have your phone? Yeah, why? Text me, anytime you want. Even if your mom says you can't, I'll always answer. Always. She nodded, then walked away. I watched her get into the car, watched Miranda drive off with my daughter, and felt something inside me harden. Miranda wanted a war. Fine. She'd get one. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost in my own life. I went to work at the auto shop, managed my employees, fixed cars. I came home to an empty house. I didn't drink, didn't go out, didn't do anything that could be used against me in court. But I was gathering ammunition. Benny came through. He had a friend who worked at a bank, someone who owed him a favor from his cop days. That friend was able to access Miranda's account records. The $5,000 monthly deposits had been coming from an offshore account registered to a shell corporation. More digging revealed that the shell corporation was owned by Brent Halloran. He was paying her. For what? The affair? Or for something else? Benny also had a friend who worked in private security. That friend had access to security footage from the parking garage at Miranda's office building. We found footage from the night of my parents' anniversary party. At 10:30 p.m., an hour and a half after my parents had left our house, Miranda and Brent Halloran had met in the parking garage. They'd talked for 15 minutes, then Miranda had driven away, alone, in the direction of my parents' house. It wasn't proof she'd cut the brake lines, but it was proof she'd lied about her whereabouts that night. She'd told the police she'd gone straight home after the party, but the footage showed otherwise. I took all of this to Detective Price. She listened carefully, made notes, but her expression was skeptical. Mr. Dalton, this is all circumstantial. It shows your wife was having an affair and lying about her location, but it doesn't prove she homicided your parents. What about the shell corporation, the payments? Could be anything, consulting fees, loan repayment, anything. Without proof that the money is connected to the homicide, it's just money. So what do I need? A confession? That would help. She closed her notebook. Look, I understand you're frustrated. I understand you think your wife is responsible. But I need evidence, real evidence, something that directly connects her to the crime. What if I could get you that evidence? Then bring it to me. But Mr. Dalton, she gave me a hard look. Don't do anything illegal. Don't break into her house. Don't hack her computer. Don't do anything that would make the evidence inadmissible in court. And more importantly, don't do anything that would get you arrested. I left the police station feeling defeated. Detective Price was right. I needed real evidence. But how was I supposed to get it? The answer came from an unexpected source. 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. About Miranda. Meet me at the Riverside Diner tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Dana Dana. Miranda's best friend. Her co-conspirator. Why would she want to talk to me? I showed the text to Benny. It's a trap, he said immediately. She's working with Miranda. This is probably some kind of setup. Maybe, but what if it's not? What if she's having second thoughts? Then she's an idiot for texting you from her own phone. That's what makes me think it's real. If it was a setup, she'd be smarter about it. Benny shook his head. I don't like it, but if you're going to go, at least let me come with you. I'll sit at another table, keep an eye on things. Deal. The next day, I walked into the Riverside Diner at exactly noon. It was a classic small-town diner, all red vinyl booths and laminate tables and waitresses who called everyone Han. Dana was already there, sitting in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug. She looked terrible. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her eyes were red and puffy, and she was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie instead of her usual designer suits. I slid into the booth across from her. Benny took a seat at the counter, his back to us, but his eyes watching in the mirror behind the register. "Thanks for coming," Dana said. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. "Why am I here, Dana?" "Because I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying. I can't keep covering for her." "Covering for who? Miranda?" She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I didn't know she was going to do it. I swear to God, Jack, I didn't know. I thought we were just going to scare them, just make them keep quiet. But then they died, and I realized what she'd done, and I've been sick about it ever since." My heart was pounding. "What did she do, Dana?" "She eliminated them, your parents. She cut their brake lines. I didn't help her do it, but I knew she was planning something, and I didn't stop her. That makes me guilty too, doesn't it?" "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can't live with it. Because Miranda is getting worse. She's talking about other problems that need to be handled. She's talking about you. Jack, I think she's planning to hurt you too." "Did she say that?" "Not directly, but the way she talks about you, the way she's setting you up as an alcoholic, an unfit parent. She's building a narrative, and I'm scared that narrative ends with you having an accident too." I leaned forward. "Dana, I need you to tell the police this. I need you to testify." She shook her head violently. "I can't. If I do, I'll go to prison. I'll lose my law license. My life will be over." "Your life will be over if you don't, because when they catch Miranda, and they will, you'll go down with her. But if you cooperate now, if you help them build a case, you might get immunity. You might walk away from this." "I can't." She stood up, grabbed her purse. "I shouldn't have come here. This was a mistake." "Dana, wait." But she was already walking away, practically running out of the diner. Benny came over to the booth. "Did you get anything?" "Yeah, a confession. But she won't go to the police." "Then we need to make her." Making Dana testify wasn't going to be easy. She was terrified of Miranda, terrified of going to prison, terrified of losing everything she'd worked for. But she was also the key to everything. Without her testimony, all I had was circumstantial evidence. With her testimony, I could prove Miranda had homicided my parents. "We need leverage," Benny said. We were back in his office, brainstorming. Something that scares Dana more than prison. Like what? I don't know. What does she care about? I thought about what I knew about Dana Feld. She was 44, never married, no kids. Her whole life was her career. She'd worked her way up from nothing, put herself through law school, built a reputation as a fierce litigator. Her career, I said. That's all she has. That's all she cares about. Okay, so we threaten her career. How? Benny grinned. We make her think we're going to expose her involvement in the partnership scheme, the one where they're skimming money from the firm to start their own practice. Are they actually skimming money? Probably. Lawyers like that always have their hands in the cookie jar. But even if they're not, we can make it look like they are. How? We plant evidence, fake documents showing transfers from the firm's accounts to their personal accounts. We make it look like they've been embezzling. That's illegal. So is homicide, Jack. You want to play by the rules or you want to win? I thought about my parents, about how they died, terrified, their brakes failing, their car careening off the road, about how Miranda had eliminated them in cold blood for money, about how she was trying to take my daughter away from me. I want to win. Good. Then here's what we're going to do. Over the next week, Benny and I put together a package of fake evidence. Bank statements showing transfers from Halloran, Price & Associates to accounts owned by Miranda, Brent, and Dana. Emails discussing the transfers, meeting notes about how to hide the money. It was all fake, but it looked real. That was the important part. Then we sent it anonymously to the managing partner of the law firm, along with a note. Thought you should know what your employees are doing with your money. We also sent copies to the State Bar Association and to a reporter at the local newspaper who specialized in white-collar crime. And then we waited. It took 3 days for the bomb to go off. I was at the shop doing an oil change on a Honda Civic when Benny called. "Turn on the news," he said. I wiped my hands and pulled out my phone, found a local news stream. The headline made me smile. Prominent law firm under investigation for embezzlement. The reporter was standing outside Halloran, Price & Associates, speaking into a camera. Sources tell us that 3 senior attorneys at this firm, Brent Halloran, Miranda Dalton, and Dana Feld, are being investigated for allegedly embezzling over $500,000 from the firm's operating accounts. The firm's managing partner has declined to comment, but sources close to the investigation say the evidence is substantial. My phone rang. Miranda. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, she called again. And again, and again. Finally, I answered. What? Jack, you son of a witch, what did you do? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb, this is you. I know it's you. You planted that evidence. Evidence of what? Your embezzlement? Miranda, if you stole money from your firm, that's on you. I didn't steal anything. That evidence is fake and you know it. Then prove it. Take it to court. Let a jury decide. You're trying to destroy me. No, Miranda, I'm trying to get justice for my parents. There's a difference. She hung up. 2 minutes later, Dana called. Jack, please. You have to tell them the truth. You have to tell them that evidence is fake. Why would I do that? Because I'll lose everything. My license, my career, everything I've worked for. Then maybe you should tell the truth about what Miranda did to my parents. Silence. Then quietly. If I do that, will you tell them the evidence is fake? Yes. Do you promise? Dana, I'm not the bad guy here. I never wanted any of this. I just want the truth to come out. You help me get justice for my parents, and I'll help you save your career. That's the deal. More silence. Then, okay, I'll talk to Detective Price, but you have to come with me. You have to be there when I confess, so I know you'll keep your word. Deal, I'll set it up. I called Detective Price and told her Dana was ready to talk. We arranged to meet at the police station that afternoon. Dana showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hands were shaking as she sat down across from Detective Price in the interrogation room. I sat next to her and Benny stood by the door, his arms crossed. Tell her everything, I said. And Dana did. She told Detective Price about the affair, about the partnership plan, about how Miranda had threatened my parents when they'd discovered the affair. She told her about the Shell Corporation, about the payments from Brent to Miranda. She told her about the night of the anniversary party, about how Miranda had left the office and driven toward my parents' house. And then she told her the most damning thing of all. The next day, Miranda came to my office. She was calm, almost cheerful. She said the problem had been handled. She said my parents wouldn't be telling Jack anything. I asked her what she meant, and she just smiled. Then 2 days later, they were dead, and I knew. I knew what she'd done. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Detective Price asked. Because I was scared, because Miranda said if I ever told anyone, she'd make sure I went down with her. She said she had evidence that I'd helped plan it, that I'd been complicit. She said no one would believe I didn't know. And did you help plan it? No, I swear. I didn't know she was going to eliminate them. I thought she was just going to threaten them again, maybe offer them money to keep quiet. I never thought she'd actually do it. Detective Price made notes, her expression unreadable. This is all very helpful, Miss Feld, but I need more than your word. I need physical evidence connecting Miranda to the crime. I might have something, Dana said. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her photos, and handed it to the detective. This is a text Miranda sent me the morning after the party. I saved it because it felt wrong. Detective Price read the text aloud. Problem solved. They won't be talking to anyone. Time to move forward with the plan. That's not exactly a confession, Detective Price said. No, but combined with everything else, it shows intent. It shows she was planning something. Detective Price nodded slowly. I'll need to take your phone as evidence, and I'll need you to make an official statement on the record. I will. But Jack promised he'd tell you the truth about the embezzlement evidence. It's fake. He planted it to pressure me into talking. Detective Price turned to me, her expression hard. Is that true, Mr. Dalton? Yes. You planted fake evidence to blackmail a witness? I created leverage to get to the truth. My parents were homicided, Detective. I did what I had to do. What you did was obstruction of justice. I could arrest you right now, but you won't, because I just handed you your key witness. Detective Price stared at me for a long moment. Then she sighed. Get out of here, Mr. Dalton, and don't pull anything like this again. Yes, ma'am. As Benny and I left the station, he clapped me on the shoulder. That went well. She's going to arrest Miranda now, right? Probably. But it might take a few days. They'll want to build a solid case first. I can wait. But I didn't have to wait long. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls and twice as many texts. I checked the news and saw the headline, "Attorney arrested for homicide of elderly couple." Miranda had been arrested at her hotel at 6 a.m. She was being held without bail, charged with 2 counts of first-degree homicide. I should have felt relieved. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. My phone rang. It was Lila. Dad, is it true? Did Mom really eliminate Grandma and Grandpa? Yeah, baby, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. She was crying, hard, gasping sobs that broke my heart. I don't understand. Why would she do that? For money, for power, for herself. Your mom, she's not the person we thought she was. Can I come home? I don't want to be at this hotel anymore. I don't want to be alone. Of course, I'll come get you right now. I picked up Lila and brought her home. She cried for hours, curled up on the couch with her head in my lap like she used to do when she was little. I stroked her hair and told her everything would be okay, even though I wasn't sure it would be. But at least we were together. At least she was safe. And Miranda was behind bars, where she belonged, or so I thought. 2 days after Miranda's arrest, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Jack Dalton? The voice was smooth, cultured, arrogant. I recognized it immediately. Brent Halloran? The very same. We need to talk. I don't think so. I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. It's about Miranda, and about a deal that could benefit both of us. I'm not interested in any deals with you. Not even a deal that keeps your daughter safe? My blood went cold. What did you just say? Meet me tonight, 10 p.m., the old warehouse on Riverside Drive. Come alone, or the deal is off. He hung up before I could respond. I immediately called Benny and told him about the conversation. It's a trap, Benny said. Has to be. Maybe, but he mentioned Lila. What if he's planning something? Then we call the cops. And tell them what? That he made a vague threat over the phone? They won't do anything. So, what do you want to do? I want to go to that meeting, but I want you there as backup. Jack, this is a bad idea. I know, but I have to know what he wants. I have to know if Lila's in danger. Benny sighed. Fine, but I'm bringing friends, and if anything goes sideways, we're calling the cops. At 9:30 p.m., I drove to the warehouse district. The area was industrial, mostly abandoned, full of old buildings that had been empty since the recession. The warehouse Brent had specified was at the end of a dead-end street, right next to the river. I parked a block away and walked the rest of the distance. The warehouse was dark, the windows broken, the doors hanging off their hinges. It looked like the perfect place for someone to get homicided. I texted Benny. I'm going in. He texted back. We're in position. Be careful. I stepped through the doorway into darkness. The warehouse was huge, the ceiling 2 stories high, the floor covered in debris and broken glass. Rain leaked through holes in the roof, creating puddles that reflected the dim light from outside. Hello? I called out. Over here. Brent's voice came from the far end of the warehouse. I could see a figure standing in the shadows. I walked toward him, my footsteps echoing in the empty space. As I got closer, I could make out his features. He was wearing an expensive suit, completely out of place in the grimy warehouse. He looked calm, confident, like he was in a boardroom instead of an abandoned building. Thanks for coming, he said. What do you want, Brent? I want to make a deal. Miranda's going to prison. That's a foregone conclusion. But I don't have to go down with her. You're her accomplice. You paid her to eliminate my parents. That's not what happened. I was paying her for consulting work on cases. Completely legitimate. The fact that she used that money to fund her own criminal activities is not my responsibility. You're lying. Prove it. You can't. All you have is circumstantial evidence and the testimony of Dana Feld, who's already admitted to being complicit in multiple crimes. Her credibility is shot. So why are we here? Because I have information you want, and you have something I want. What information? I know where Miranda hid the evidence, the real evidence, the tools she used to cut your parents' brake lines, the clothes she wore that night, her phone with all the incriminating texts and calls. She kept it all, like a trophy. And I know where it is. Why would you tell me that? Because in exchange, I want you to give a statement to the police. I want you to tell them that I had nothing to do with the homicide, that I was just Miranda's boss, that I had no knowledge of her plans. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure that evidence disappears. And without it, Miranda might walk. Is that what you want? I stared at him. He was blackmailing me, using my parents' homicide to save his own skin. You're a piece of work, you know that? I'm a survivor, just like you. So what do you say? Do we have a deal? Before I could answer, lights flooded the warehouse. Bright, blinding lights that made me shield my eyes. This is the police! Nobody move! Detective Price walked into the warehouse, flanked by 4 uniformed officers. She looked at me, then at Brent, her expression grim. Mr. Halloran, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit homicide and obstruction of justice. What? No, you can't. We can, and we are. We've been listening to this entire conversation. You just confessed to knowing about evidence in a homicide case and attempting to hide it. That's obstruction. I was trying to make a deal. You were trying to blackmail a witness. That's a crime. As the officers handcuffed Brent and read him his rights, Detective Price walked over to me. You okay, Mr. Dalton? Yeah. How long were you listening? Long enough. Your friend Benny called us as soon as you told him about the meeting. We've had this place wired for the last hour. So, you heard everything. Everything, including the part where Halloran admitted to knowing where the evidence is hidden. We'll be getting a warrant for his property immediately. Thank you, Detective. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. We still need to find that evidence and make sure it's admissible in court. And we need to build a case against Halloran that will stick. But you'll get them. Both of them. We'll do our best. As the police led Brent away, Benny emerged from the shadows, grinning. That was some good police work, he said. Thanks for calling them. Hey, I told you I'd have your back. I meant it. We walked out of the warehouse together. The rain had stopped and the air smelled clean, fresh. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But the fight wasn't over yet. The next day, Detective Price called me with an update. They'd executed a search warrant on Brent Halloran's house and found exactly what he'd described. A storage box hidden in his attic containing the tools used to cut my parents' brake lines, along with Miranda's clothes from that night and her old phone. The phone was the smoking gun. It contained dozens of texts between Miranda and Brent, discussing the homicide, planning it, celebrating afterward. It also contained texts between Miranda and Dana, showing that Dana had known more than she'd admitted. With that evidence, the case against Miranda was airtight. She was going to prison for the rest of her life. Brent was charged as an accessory after the fact. He'd known about the homicide, had helped cover it up, and had paid Miranda to do it. He was looking at 20 years minimum. Dana, because she'd cooperated and testified, got a deal. She pled guilty to conspiracy and obstruction and was sentenced to 5 years probation and disbarment. Her legal career was over, but at least she wasn't going to prison. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life. I got full custody of Lila. The divorce was finalized and I kept the house, the business, everything. Miranda's lawyer tried to argue that she was entitled to half of my inheritance, but the judge ruled that since she'd homicided the people who left me that inheritance, she had no claim to it. Lila struggled for a while. Finding out your mother is a butcher isn't easy at any age, but she was strong, and with therapy and time, she started to heal. She started talking to me again, really talking, the way we used to before Miranda poisoned her against me. 6 months after Miranda's arrest, I was at the shop, working on an engine rebuild, when Lila came in after school. Hey, Dad. Hey, kiddo. How was school? Good. I got an A on my history paper. That's great. I'm proud of you. She smiled, then her expression turned serious. Dad, I need to say something. Okay. I'm sorry for believing Mom, for thinking you were the bad guy. I should have trusted you. I put down my wrench and pulled her into a hug. You have nothing to apologize for. Your mom is a master manipulator. She fooled everyone, including me. You were just a kid caught in the middle. I wasn't a kid. I was 17. I should have known better. Lila, you're my daughter, and I love you. That's all that matters. We're going to be okay. Both of us. She hugged me tighter. I love you too, Dad. The trial was set for the following spring. I was prepared to testify, to tell the jury everything Miranda had done. But I never got the chance. 2 weeks before the trial was set to begin, Miranda took a plea deal. She pled guilty to 2 counts of first-degree homicide in exchange for life in prison without the possibility of parole. No trial, no appeals, no last-minute surprises. It was over. I should have felt victorious. I should have felt like I'd won, but mostly I just felt empty. My parents were still dead. My marriage was still destroyed. My daughter had still been traumatized by her mother's actions, but we were alive, we were together, and we were moving forward. 1 year after my parents' passing, Lila and I held a memorial service for them. We invited everyone they'd known, everyone who'd loved them. We planted a tree in their honor in the park where they used to walk every evening. We told stories and shared memories and celebrated their lives, and then we went home, to the house that was finally ours, and we started to build a new life. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was ours, and that was enough. 3 years later, I was closing up the shop when I got a call from Detective Price. "Mr. Dalton, I thought you'd want to know. Brent Halloran died in prison today, heart attack. How do you feel about that?" I thought about it. I don't know. He was a bad man who did bad things, but I don't take pleasure in anyone's end. That's a good answer. You're a better man than most. I don't know about that. I did some questionable things to get justice for my parents. You did what you had to do. Sometimes that's all any of us can do. After we hung up, I sat in my office and thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the homicide, the revenge. All of it had changed me. I wasn't the same man I'd been 3 years ago. That man had been naive, trusting, willing to believe the best in people. This man knew better. This man knew that people were capable of terrible things, that love could turn to hate, that the person sleeping next to you could be planning your destruction. But this man also knew that there was still good in the world. That friendship mattered. That family mattered. That justice, even when it came with a price, was worth fighting for. I locked up the shop and drove home. Lila was in the kitchen cooking dinner. She was 20 now, in college, studying to be a teacher. She'd turned into an amazing young woman, strong and kind and resilient. "Hey, Dad," she said, not looking up from the stove. "How was work?" "Good. Busy. How was class?" "Interesting. We're studying the psychology of criminal behavior. It's intense." I understood what she wasn't saying. She was studying her mother, trying to understand how someone could do what Miranda had done. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, I'm okay. It's just weird, you know? Learning about this stuff and knowing that it applies to my own life. If you ever want to talk about it, I know, Dad. Thanks." We ate dinner together, talking about school and work and nothing important. Normal things, safe things. The kind of conversation I'd thought I'd never have again. After dinner, I went out to the garage to work on a project. Dad's old Mustang, the one I'd been restoring when everything fell apart. I'd finally finished it. It ran perfectly, looked beautiful, was everything Dad had dreamed it would be. I ran my hand over the hood, remembering all the hours we'd spent together in his garage, remembering his laugh, his advice, his love. "I got them, Dad," I said quietly. "I got justice for you and Mom. It wasn't easy, and it cost me a lot, but I got them." The garage was silent except for the sound of rain on the roof, but I could almost hear Dad's voice, proud and strong. "That's my boy." I smiled, wiped my eyes, and went back inside. The past was behind me. The future was ahead. And for the first time in 3 years, I was ready to face it. Miranda Dalton died in prison 5 years later. Cancer. I didn't go to the funeral. Neither did Lila. We'd said our goodbyes long ago. But I did visit my parents' grave that day. I brought flowers, told them about Lila's graduation from college, about the shop's expansion, about the life we'd built from the ashes of what Miranda had destroyed. "We made it," I said. "We survived, and we're happy. I hope you're proud." The wind rustled through the trees, warm and gentle, and I knew somehow that they were. I walked back to my truck, climbed in, and drove home. To my daughter, to my life, to the future I'd fought so hard to protect. It hadn't been easy, it hadn't been clean, but it had been worth it. Every single moment.